What's up? I figured this would be a video just to post up to help some people if possible. Got a 2023 Subaru BRZ in the shop, getting a high-low level into a DSP, going to a 5-channel amp, 3-way components in the front, and a 10-inch sub in the rear. I'll just show you what I've done, little tips, little tricks as I go along. Check it out. The first thing is I got the T-harness to go behind the radio, but as I looked into the radio and how to remove this generation's radio, it's not really worth the effort for what we're doing. We're going to leave the factory rear speakers in because they're kind of pointless. We're just going to upgrade the fronts with some new 3-ways. So we're going to do 3s and 1s up in the dash, and we're going to do 6.5s here in the door. And we just need the high level for the front. We really don't need the high level for the rear because we're not going to be utilizing the rears in any way. So to pull that radio out requires so much disassembly from here all the way across, including the cluster top there and everything. And this being a brand new car, there's no reason to risk having squeaks or something go loose or even something get broke for just those signals when we can grab them right here in the kick panel. So right there is the leads coming from the door's speaker. So that's where I'll grab my signal. Now before, I'm going to hook up and see what kind of signal we have there. If it's not a full range signal, then I know I'm going to have to use a base restoration or see what's falling off. Now when pulling off the kick panels or down in that area, just to help you out, it's very easy. It just kind of pops forward. And like most kick panels, you would think you would just pull it forward and it'd just come right out. But there is a snap right there that's at an angle. So when you get it unsnapped and popped, up top it's going to feel hung up. Just go straight out in towards the car. So you're going to pop it up, grab it up at the top like you would kind of grab it around here. And then just come straight out and you'll get that snap. If you try to go forward, you're just going to break it right off. So removing the door panels, not hard at all. On the other side here, I'll show you where the locations are for the screws. Right here in the grab handle, you're just going to go ahead and pop up that piece of trim. There's 2 Phillips there. And then behind the handle here, you're going to pop out that little cover back there, and there's 1 Phillips. Then there's a little slot for your finger over here. You're going to pull. The snaps are pretty tight right here in the middle. Just make sure you pull. Then you're going to pull across the bottom. And then over here, you're going to pull and then kind of get your arm back there a little bit, just back in there and pull out. That way you're not putting so much flex onto it. That'll pop it up. It lifts right out. It's pretty easy. The only tip I could give you is the snaps have this black rubber around them, and a couple of them fell off and a couple of them stayed on the door. Those are like anti-squeak. So those are to keep having like a weird rubbing noise. So you want to make sure you replace those. So if they fall off, put them back on. If not, you're going to maybe notice a little bit of movement in the door. That kind of keeps it tight and keeps it from wobbling. I'm going to go ahead and work on the other door panel and get these speakers out and do some testing. Now the dash speakers, I got a little bamboozled. I thought he had 3-ways, but he only has a tweeter. So there's nothing there behind the circle part, just on the tweeter. And I'll show you, try to show you how you pop that out pretty easily. I couldn't really talk because I had the light in my mouth. You just pop that right up. And then you'll pull straight towards you. And see, there's just 1 tweeter mounted there. So the harness on the other side did not want to unplug. So I just popped the tweeter out of the housing. So this will just pop right out of the housing. But I don't want to try to do it with one hand because I don't want to risk scratching his dash. But that is how you pull out the dash grills. So now with the grills out and the tweeters popped off here, we can take a look at the plug and see if it's doing what Toyota, because this is Subaru, but it's actually Toyota. And you see there's 4 wires on the tweeter. That means the signal goes from the radio to the tweeter, and then it jumps off from the tweeter down to the door. That's why I'll find guys all the time that'll unhook the tweeters and then the doors quit working, because you can't lose that parallel. And the parallel is actually done when it's plugged in. So if I unplug this, the parallel will be dead because the pins aren't connected anymore. So that means if I were to grab the high level signal from down here and have those unplugged, I would have no signal. So I technically need to grab my signal from here. So that's what I'll end up doing, is I'll use speaker harness. I'll just plug it into there. I'll grab my signal, and then I'm not having to cut anything in this new car. And to give you an example of what I mean, I know it's annoying, the door dinging, but if you hear in the rear, the static from the radio, this speaker, there's nothing. But if I hook up this tweeter, now I gotta figure out how to do this while I'm holding the phone. Hold on, I'll just stop. So the tweeter, now get ready. If I plug it all the way in, now I get sound out of the woofer. Unplug, woofer's gone. So the signal is going to the dash first. So if you're gonna do a high level, you have to grab your signal from up there, or you're gonna have to cut the harness and you're gonna have to tie the wires together. You gotta complete that circuit that the tweeter's doing. So now that we've got it all figured out as far as how we're gonna tap in, get the high level, the speakers, how everything's gonna be done, now I need to build a bracket. So based by using cardboard, paper, whatever you have, I created the shape. I've got the hole cut out. That's for the massive 3-inch. That's for the massive audio 1-inch, the tweeter. Right there is a mounting point. There's another mounting point. Those are the factory mounting points for if this car would have had the actual 3-way setup. So now I'll take that piece out. I'm gonna transfer it over to a piece of 1/4-inch ABS, and I'll copy it, cut it all out, set it in there, and that'll be our plate that'll hold the speakers, and I need to do the same on the other side. Now I'm also working on the amp rack and the wiring. I'm going to utilize the spare tire wells little insert here. Customer said it's all right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a floor for this side and a floor for this side. On this side, underneath the floor, I'll put the crossovers and the DSPs. I'm going to cut a hole through here for a pass through for the leads to come through. On this side will be a floor with the amplifier mounted. All the wiring will go underneath, and then we'll cut a tunnel right through here, and the wiring will all come out this side and go to the leads that are coming from the front, and that'll take care of the rear end, and I can do everything basically outside the car here and create plugs on this side to plug it all in. So we've got the templates basically made. This is how the amp rack and everything is going to be laid out. We've got the cover here. Underneath there is the DSP. We've got the floor here holding the amplifier, and then the floor here holding the crossovers for the 3-way components. Now the woofers are going to run active off the rear outputs of this 5 channel. So the rear outputs are going to run the woofers and the doors active. The fronts are going to be running to the crossovers and then out to the 3-inch and the tweeter and the dash. You may also notice these plugs here. This is the ACX 5 channel, so it's the Marine. So it's got these quick disconnects. So this will allow me to run all the wiring, have the plugs there. I'll be able to plug in and essentially unplug and remove this whole rack without having to do any unwiring. So I'm going to make everything removable. He'll be able to pull this rack out. And the reason I'm doing that is this guy has gotten a new car every month, and every month he comes back to have me do a system in it. So this way he'll be able to actually remove his full system when he decides in 30 days to get another car. And I'm not kidding. This is like the 6th car I've done for this guy in like 4 months. He just keeps trading up and trading up. So it's a beautiful car, but that's where we're at so far. And I need to cut out the front dash templates that I've made to hold the 3 and the tweet, and then I can test them in. In here I'm test fitting the bracket I made to hold the 3 and the tweet. I've got it made so that it'll mount to the factory mount points if this thing did come with the actual 3-way setup. Looks like it'll work out pretty well. I'm going to test the grill. I may need to heat the section with the tweeter and put a bend on it so it bounces more off the windshield. A little bit better sound output. Alright, and here's the dash brackets, whatever you want to call them, that I've made. The massive 3-way component set. It's got the 3-inch mid-range and the tweeter. So this will go up in the dash. I'll go ahead and set this in there so you can see how it fits. And there it is. That's how it will set. The 2 mounting points right there. Just got to put a 10mm bolt on each edge there, and that will hold the bracket. Should work out pretty nice. Now I'm going to move on to actually doing the doors. Get these installed. And then we will go ahead and start our wiring. We have a lot of wiring we got to do. We've got to run dedicated lines for the mid and the tweet back to the trunk. We've also got to run the dedicated lines that's going to grab the high level. And we got to run a dedicated line for the woofer. So we've got 4 pairs of lines that we need to run down on each side of this car. So we've got the dash wired up, and it's kind of hard to explain exactly what's going on here, but this is the factory harness. And I got the Metra harness, which has the actual pass-through, so it's got the loops. I cut the loop, and now it is wired into the speed wire, so this will carry the high-level signal and the woofer. So that's what's being carried through here. These leads are now going to a plug, and the other end of that plug is wired to the 3-inch mid and the tweeter. So the speed wire runs to the back, where it's going to hit at the DSP and the amplifier. We have the same thing that's going to happen over on this side. I can show you the harness on the other side. So this is the harness. It's the 728110. And these wires were looping and just jumping off these pins. So these are the signals coming from the radio, and then these would feed out to that tweeter, but I have them running to the woofer right now. So by snipping these, I now have the signal coming from the radio, the high level. This lead is on these pins, which is going down to the door woofer. And that's how I'm doing my high level and my bypass using just the speaker harness. And there we have it installed. Everything's plugged in. The grill's getting ready to be snapped over that, and that side will be done. Go ahead and start on the next one. And I realized I forgot to show the door speakers. I've already put the door panels back on, but the 6.5s are mounted right there. There's second skin sound deadening on the inside of the door, and then second skin over the top, over all the wires. But it's just the 6.5 mounted to a Metra speaker adapter right there. This is try to show you more of what I'm talking about as far as how I'm integrating. So this is the Metra speaker harness. Normally, see there's 4 wires here. The white and the black, they're looping through each other because the way the radio works, signal comes from the radio, goes up to the tweeter, then it's paralleled down to the woofer. The tweeter has its own capacitor on it as a crossover. So it's a full range signal coming up here, then it goes down here. So if you get the harness, you just cut the loop. So now I have a signal right here, which of my little cheat sheet I've made for my speed wires, is the purple is going to be the high level. So this is the signal coming from the radio because I've cut the loop. And then this white is going down to the 6.5. So that's how I'm getting to the door speaker. And then I have green and gray for the 1-inch and the 3-inch that go right here on the plate. So I've got a run of speed wire on each side of the car that's running to the back, and then in the back we have a whole another wiring situation I'll have to show you when I'm ready for that. Whew, so now it's starting to get a little confusing, but here's what we have going on. This is the amp rack. Everything is being pre-wired here. The crossovers are already mounted and wired. And then on the other end here we have all these plugs. On the other side over here is the DSP. Now this plate gets mounted, but it can't be mounted right now until I'm ready to move this amp over, which I'm going to do after this video. But I wanted you to see how everything is being built into this, so it's modular to plug there, which then comes here in the trunk. So we've got the plugs there. We need to put the plugs on the power and ground, and this is the base knob. So we need to have the plug put there. So I'll be able to set it in here, plug all this in, and technically that's it. Everything should work. Obviously the sub wire will come up and the sub box will go in. So I'm gonna go ahead and put together the rack, and the next time you see it, it should be plugged in here. And there it is, installed. Everything is mounted and done. Next, go hook up the power wire at the battery. We'll turn it on, make sure everything's working, get to tuning. All right, and under the hood, we've got the power wire hooked up to the battery. Fuse is mounted right there, and there's a nice rubber grommet you can pop right through to get inside the car. Now to test to make sure everything's working. Okay, and here it is with the sub slid back. The sub sits right here, but I have it slid back so we can raise up the floor, and there is the completed install. Very clean, 100% removable, all plugs. Nice setup. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. Sub slides forward here, and in this vehicle I found sub in the middle, firing back was the best location. And that does it for the 2023 Subaru BRZ. This thing sounds amazing. It is 1,000 times better than what it was from the factory. The massive audio three-way components are kind of making their way up on the list as probably the best three-way components for the money that I've ever came across. I used to always run the Sony three-ways. The Massives seem to have them beat. The only thing with these Massives you have to watch for is the tweeters. They are very, very bright. So I have it on -3 dB knockdown on the crossover. Other than that, these things are pretty much for the money. I don't know of anything that can beat them. Obviously the audio control amp is just top notch. They always are, and the kicker sub. So he's got everything he needs in here to have an awesome sounding stereo. And now he can enjoy his new car. I hope you enjoyed the video. If it helped you out, awesome. Let me know, shoot a message. I'm Cape Sites, Custom Audio Reimagined. Take it easy.